Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and co-host of the Fear and Greed Business Podcast. As always, I'm with Canna Campbell, financial planner, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform covering podcasts and books and YouTube and Instagram and more. Canna, what have you seen this week?
Well, it's not so much what I've seen this week, it's what I've experienced this week.
Oh, dear.
We had to tap into our emergency money.
Ooh.
Yes.
This is very timely because last week we were talking about emergency money and why you need it, how much you need, kind of what the circumstances are in which you're allowed to tap into it. So please tell me, illustrate.
So we moved into our house about 6 months ago and it's got an integrated fridge, which a lot of Australians have in their kitchen. So our fridge essentially started to warm up. And so we got someone over to service it and have a look at it. And
What do you say the fridge started to warm up?
It literally was warming up.
The fridge has stopped working, essentially, just gradually.
Yes, you could say that, but it was actually warm up the top and then we had large chunks of ice down the bottom. And this is the fridge, not the freezer.
So it's like Earth. It gets warmer around the middle and then it's got the polar ice caps.
Exactly. So anyway, got someone over. The call-out fee alone was $300.
Ooh.
And then they charge you per 15 minutes, which is like you're sort of listening to the terms on the phone. You're like, okay, just swallow.
Do you try and cut down on small talk then when they walk in? Like, how you going? Good. All right, the fridge is that way.
Pretty much, yes, at that cost. Anyway, to fix the fridge, it needs new parts. $1,500.
For the parts.
I know. And so I thought, you know what? Okay, maybe we need to replace the fridge.
You can get by without a fridge?
Well, let me tell you, that's a second part of our emergency money. So the new fridge, because it's an old model, it's about 11 years old, the new one is $3,500 plus delivery plus installation. So the guy said, look, I can fix it. It's going to cost you $1,500. So it's cheaper than buying a new fridge. So I was like, okay, no problem. They forgot to order the parts by quite a few days. There was a bit of a slip up there. So for the last 13 days, I think it's been, we've had no fridge. So you don't realize how much you rely on your fridge. So basically it's meant we've lost so much food. And I'm having to go to BP and buy large bags of ice once, if not twice a day, to try and keep our milk fresh, to, keep butter and cream. And you just don't realize how much food I have wasted. So not only have we had to hemorrhage $1,500 to get the fridge, which is still not fixed, might I add. I'm still doing my trips to BP, but we're losing so much food, and I'm also having to buy fresh food every day because 24 hours later it's gone, and you don't want to get food poisoning.
Far be it from me to offer you advice, but you know what I would have done in that situation?
Tell me.
Would have been jumped on Gumtree and bought a bar fridge, a mini fridge for about $200. And set it up somewhere in the house and use that for your milk and your butter and anything else that you needed to keep fresh. And the moment your new fridge arrives, you pop it back online on Facebook Marketplace and away you go.
That is really smart. Why didn't I think of that?
I don't know. This is what I'm here for. 13 days too late, obviously, but I'm here to help. Do you find that as you go through life, you put together a list of people that you wish you had in your family, like a fridge mechanic, which is a very niche kind of thing to have somewhere within your family, but just like a lawyer and a mechanic and a doctor and kind of all these kind of ones that kind of fill in your skills gaps, people that you could call on to help you on a weekend, and they're not going to charge you $500 as the kind of off-peak call-out fee.
I do. And the funny thing is Tom's a physio. He's an equine physio, so he treats horses, but he's also a fully trained human physio. You think I could get free physio? No. Useless. Gives me no attention whatsoever, to the point where I had a really sore neck and I was crying for 3 weeks. And Tom was like, oh, take 2 Nurofen, take 2 Panadol, you'll be fine. And then I think when I literally got to day 22, this is really, I can't put my head down, I can't bend over. He's like, had a look at it. He's like, yeah, you've got a bulging disc in your neck. That's so that you may have someone who's qualified, but they may not necessarily want to share the love of their services with you.
An equine physio. So he does physio for horses?
Horses, yeah. Very good at it too.
Did you find that after he treated the bulging disc in your neck that he tried to give you a sugar cube?
Maybe an apple or a
Yeah.
carrot to nibble on.
Yeah. You stayed very still during the treatment. There you go. Patting your mane. Okay, we need to get on with the show. We've got some. I was going to say this is one that you're looking forward to, but I don't know whether it is one that you're looking forward to because you have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Frugal February. Because today is obviously February 1, so it makes perfect sense to talk about Frugal February. That's actually really hard to say. Frugal February. Okay, not quite as hard that time, but I am going to stuff it up a few times. I want to get into what it is, where we kind of are saving money, why we're doing it, whether it's just about kind of setting up better habits for the year and what kind of habits. If it's something that you're not looking forward to, then I'm going to assume that it's fairly tough.
No. Okay, so Frugal February, first of all, is essentially where I am the world's biggest tight ass for the month of February. And every time I stop myself from spending money, for example, going and buying a muffin or takeaway coffee, I would put that money into a separate dedicated savings account. And at the end of the month, I see how much money I've saved and I go and invest it into the $1,000 project. Now, the reason why I have a love-hate relationship with it is I know there's a lot of goodness behind it. It is a fun challenge, and I'll explain why in a second. But my mindset is very much one of, and without sounding too woo-woo, but it's very much about like having a glass half full, having a positive mindset, an abundant, prosperous mindset where I'm excited about opportunities to earn more money, attract more money, create more money, that kind of spectrum. When it comes to saving, it's, in a frugal mindset, it's all about scarcity and lack of, which is a kind of negative headspace to be in. It's not who I am. But this is the beauty of Frugal February. And it goes absolutely mental on social media. So everyone who does it and is going to do Frugal February with me, make sure you tag at Sugar Mama so I can share what you're doing to be frugal, because we all inspire each other. And it is great for these reasons. It's kind of like a financial reset. You're looking at me like completely blank.
I can understand why. And I've got a million questions, and a lot of them is about the why, because it does feel like a month of torture. But I'll just very quickly, before we go any further, just know that anything that we talk about today is general in nature and never personal investment, strategic or product advice. It is purely for financial education purposes only.
Luckily, Frugal February isn't actually a financial product or strategy, but just to make sure ASIC is happy, of course, we don't know anything about your financial situation, your financial goals, your deadlines for those goals, or even what your risk profile might be. So should anything be of interest to you and you think, ooh, should I be doing something like this as well for myself and my goals? That is when we highly recommend you go and speak to a financial planner and ask them for personal advice based on your unique individual situation and goals.
So a lot of the questions revolve around why? Why? And I can think of two reasons. Frugal February, it's got nice alliteration. Obviously, that would be the month to do it in. You're not going to do kind of Frugal June. That sounds a bit kind of blunt. The other reason would be that February is the shortest month. Yes. So there's only 28 days that you have to be frugal for. It would be far worse doing Frugal July with 31 days. They are the two reasons that I can think of. I'm assuming there is a more legitimate financial reason.
Okay, there is. So as I say, it's like a financial reset. It's a no spend, but importantly, it's a great time to do it because we're coming off the back of December, January, which is one of the most expensive times of the year. You've had Christmas presents, you've had social gatherings, you've had entertainment. There's maybe lots of champagne and, expensive foods and travel and holidays.
Yeah.
And it's a great way of getting back on top of your finances, really looking at your budget, where you spend money, but cutting the wastage and really reconnecting with what you value in your life. So it's like a declutter of all the mindless wastage in your life financially so that you can see what's important and living, I guess, with more financial meaning, value and direction, because it does actually give you incredible clarity. And it's a very insightful process to go through because you realize how easily we fall into the trap of just this tap here, swipe here. enter in your card here. And in fact, when I sit at my computer, I don't even need to enter in my credit card sometimes. I just have to enter in a 3-digit code for it to buy things. It's become the most soulless transactions where we're not really seeing the true value of what we are spending our, let's be honest, we're all working really hard, our hard-earned precious money that we've worked our backsides off for. So it's about really coming back down to what is important to you. It's kind of like doing a bit of a cleanse, or maybe a version of dry July or dry January, where we just get to ground zero again, to get back to the basics and see what's important and get the benefit of all these newfound savings. And the great thing is from Frugal February is you get a new lump sum of money at the end of the month. And it might be $500, it might be $200, it might be $5,000, whatever it might be.
That's what I was going to ask you was, do you set a goal for how much you're going to save through the month? Or is it the other way where you are just trying to save as much as you can, and then whatever you get at the end of the month, you're like, wow, I managed to save $1,200.
Look, I previously have set a goal of $1,000, and I will be really happy if I get to $1,000. However, the problem with a goal is it can sometimes hold you back. You actually might be capable of achieving more than that goal. So be careful of the goal that you set. You don't want to set it too low, otherwise, because you might then get to that $1,000 2/3 of the way during February and go, I can stop now, I've hit my goal. Whereas if you keep going, or if you set your goal for something a lot more challenging, it's going to add a new dynamic to the whole financial challenge. And it is supposed to be fun. And I tell you what, you get to the end of the month and it's always very liberating. It's quite a cathartic experience because you realize, you really have to look at the truth and reality of how you spend money and what money means to you in your life. And also it's great because you see the non-negotiables in your life, things that you're not willing to compromise on.
And how long have you been doing Frugal February for?
8 years.
And do you find that each year you are trying to beat the amount that you were able to save from the... I'm a very competitive person. I'm trying to find a competitive edge to Frugal February.
To be really honest, I probably have done less from Frugal February each year. And that's because I'm on a tight budget. There isn't really that much fat I can trim from my budget
already.
Because, I have a coffee machine at home, so that stops me anyway from spending that money. So that's not something I can use. But I will be going aggressively this year, and I'll be sharing on Instagram absolutely everything. And I've already got some great things to explore and discover. But what I bounce out of this into manifesting March, and that is where the magic really happens.
You referred to something previously as being a bit woo-woo, I think was the term that you use. And manifesting March, to the skeptic in the room, which is me,
yes.
Manifesting March does sound a little bit woo-woo.
And that's another one that does go mental. It's where you just kind of open yourself up to the flow of money in your life. So looking at what can you do to earn extra money? Because as I just said a second ago, really at the end of the day, you can only trim so much out of your budget. You can only get to a certain point. So there is a limit, a boundary financially as to how much money you can realistically save. We still need to eat food. We still need to wear clothes. We still need to, transport to get to our job and home again. And obviously we need shelter. So we still have those Maslow's basics that we can't trim from our budget. But when you look at, all right, well, what can I do to bring in extra money? It's limitless.
Well, that's where we're going now. We'll take a very quick break and we'll come back, and I want to hear some of the things that you have done in previous years and some of the things that you're going to be doing this Frugal February to make this February your frugalist.
The pressure is on. I don't actually know if it's going to be my frugalist, but I will try my very best because I will force myself to be a competitive person and compete with you.
Well, I don't even know if frugalist is a word, but we're going to roll with it. We'll be back in a sec. Okay, so Canna, we are talking about Frugal February, and you've obviously been doing it for 7-8 years now, and really cutting down those expenses, all the unnecessary expenses throughout the month of February. I have my pen, I have my paper, I am ready to take notes on what has worked for you in the past and also what hasn't worked for you. Go.
All right, so doing a lot of, batch cooking. So to stop, the takeaways, the home deliveries, the eating in restaurants. Also, cutting out alcohol for the month of February is also great as well. I'm not a big drinker, I will disclose that though.
No. Could you just change to cheaper alcohol?
Yes, absolutely. And this is you control your boundaries. As I said, this is about also discovering your non-negotiables as well. So if that beer after work is a non-negotiable for you, you can have that. Maybe it's not two, it's one beer, or you have one bottle of wine once a week instead of two. Like it's completely up to you. It's about having fun. This is not about
saying you could just have one bottle a night instead of two. I'm like, that's starting to sound like a problem.
No, that is definitely sounding like a problem. But it's you find your own boundaries. It is about fun. It's about a challenge, and obviously behind any challenge, no matter what happens in our life, there's also profound growth behind that challenge. But it is a newfound awareness, so you do need to commit to this. Also, things like I changed the way I entertain. So instead of going out with friends, I would invite friends over. And so we wouldn't, for example, we had like a dinner party, and instead of saying, all right, everyone come and do this big lavish dinner party, we changed it to bring your children, bring a dish. And I think I actually did order pizzas, I will admit, but we all bought something. So the cost of the night, instead of it being, $100 in babysitters and a restaurant and wine and so forth, it was literally, I think, like $80, where all the kids played together. I did the pizzas. A girlfriend bought some wine. Another girl bought some cheese. Another girlfriend bought some salads. It was a really nice night, and the kids actually all played with each other and entertained themselves. So we all got to catch up as adults.
And did all your friends know that you were doing
Yes.
Frugal February? Were they doing it as well?
Oh, some of them were, yes. But the thing with Frugal February is you must tell people.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to safely explain, I'm doing Frugal February, this fun financial challenge, so that they know not to put you in a position where it's awkward. And even changing my activity. So instead of going for coffee with a friend, we'd go for a walk instead.
Yeah.
Or go do, some exercise together. And I did things like I put my gym membership on hold for a month and just did exercise class routines through YouTube, which are free.
On the topic of the dinner party, do you remember a TV show a while ago? I can't remember what the show was, but the person on the show, and I think it was a reality show of some kind, and they invited everyone over to their house for a dinner party,
yes.
and then revealed afterwards that everything had been sourced from dumpster diving.
Was it called to be honest, I don't watch television. I can't concentrate to watch a show, but I think it was something called Come Dine With Me or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's
That's kind of next level. And I'm assuming that Frugal February doesn't involve dumpster diving.
I don't want people getting food poisoning in order to save, $30 on food. That's not the idea, because obviously the cost then of missing out on work because you're sick, having to go see a doctor and medication and all those sorts of things.
The gym membership is an interesting one, because arguably that as long as you are substituting it with something else, that you are going for a walk or a run or doing these free sessions on YouTube, the worst thing you could do really would be to just stop everything for the month.
Exactly.
Because there would be a cost to your health.
Exactly. And that's why you've got to proactively plan this.
Yeah.
And it's funny, some of my friends actually love it when we do Frugal February, because it's a great excuse to just make everything come back down to earth again, and more about like the catch up and the communication and the connection, rather than where are we going to take the kids, and oh my gosh, we're going to have to, it's expensive taking kids places. I tried to take my kids to the museum the other day, and I almost fell over when I saw the cost of tickets to get in there. So
it's just held them up to the windows instead and said, kids, what can you see? Can you see a dinosaur? No, we're going home.
I did something worse. I just showed them the pictures online. But all these activities can be very expensive, and it's just about going, all right, well, let's go find a new park in a suburb we've never been to. That's free.
Yep.
And all these little things really do add up. And that's the beauty behind Frugal February, is you actually realize you might turn your nose up at saving money here or not spending it there. But when you realize, actually, that's $800 in my savings account that I wouldn't have had before. By doing this, it's very, very insightful, and it's very grounding. It's recalibrating. And as I said, it's a complete financial reset. It's like going through, people do 30-day yoga practices, or they do, clean eating for a week or a month, whatever it may be. You gain a great insight as to what's important to you and what's not. And you can choose to make changes from what you learn from Frugal February. And the great thing is, we've done a previous podcast on emergency money. Say you do Frugal February and you come up with $800. That's $800 that could also boost your emergency money if you're working towards that number of yours.
Yeah.
Or if one of your financial goals is to start investing, there's your $800 ready to invest.
What about if you have other expenses that come up during the month? Say you've got one of the kids has a birthday. which would be a very unlucky child to have their birthday fall in February every year because they would be a frugal birthday every year. Would you just is that one of those things that you would just go, you know what, this still has to happen because it's not fair? Or would you buy that present in January, or is that cheating?
Well, one of my best friend's birthday is February the 17th. And so what I do is I will actually, she knows it's Frugal February and knows what I'm doing, but I will actually go and I always take her out for a really nice lunch. So I'll go and buy a restaurant voucher beforehand. I would have bought it in January or December so that when we do go to lunch, I've already prepaid it.
Yeah. And it's come from my previous
budget. Oh, yes, it's come from my previous budget. So I'm still sticking to it. Or there are times where I just allow the rule to be broken for that one day, and it's obviously money that comes out of my own account. So you do need to honor what's important to you. It's, as I said, it's not about punishment. It's not about aggressively controlling. If that's important to you, that's one of your non-negotiables. That's all.
And when you're doing the grocery shopping, is it kind of shifting to cheaper brands and things for the month? Do you do that?
Just not so much cheaper brands. I do that probably anyway, but also looking for more simplistic food. You know, sometimes Tom and I can get caught up in these beautiful dishes where you need a few more ingredients. And I would admit I'm not a great cook, but we really try and simplify the meals for that month. So
do you cut out a bit of meat?
Cut out a bit of meat, look for alternative protein sources, really stick to the odd bunch. I love the odd bunch from Woolworths. Really try and, I guess, simplify what we're eating, really reduce the wastage as well, and really focus on clean, healthy eating as well.
Okay. Well, that all makes sense. I mean, a lot of this is kind of probably good advice for anyone who is looking to try and tighten their budget anyway. Because in our last episode when we were talking about emergency money and we were talking about the fact that if you need to find that money to build up that account, you kind of trim the budget wherever you can. And that kind of brings me back to the question that I always kind of grapple with, that if your budget is stretched already, where can you actually save some money? And so some of these things, Frugal February might be a good way to trial some of it, to see whether you can actually do it and whether you can make it stick.
Exactly. And see what you can actually go without from a sustainable point of view, and pausing those subscriptions, those memberships for a month if you can, and maybe realizing, actually, I didn't miss it at all. I'm going to get rid of it permanently.
That's a good point. When do you review the results? Are you kind of checking every day? I know we've talked previously about that you and Tom sit up in bed at night with your spreadsheets and kind of compare how you've gone. I've obviously kind of built this up in my head that you are just both there kind of with glasses on and kind of, do you have one of those calculators that does the thing?
No, it prints off a little receipt.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and you've got your little visor on and your pencil behind your ear.
No, we'll sit down together and have a look at it. And anyone who's met Tom knows he's quite a loud character. So no, that's definitely not what happens. But I do check on a regular basis because the whole point is what you check actually gets made. Okay. So what you monitor gets made. So if I check the bank account morning and night for Frugal February, and I'm consciously, and this is a big one for Frugal February, you must immediately transfer on the spot your money. So say you go to buy a coffee because you're doing Frugal February and you go, oh, you know what, I'm doing Frugal February, I'm not going to buy that coffee. Go and transfer that $4.50 that you were about to spend into your $1,000 project savings account or your Frugal February account so that it counts, because if you do that, you'll forget at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that money will evaporate because it got spent on something else.
Well, what about things like then, say you mentioned that you have a coffee machine at home. Now, say you had 2 coffees a day, you still have your first one in the morning and you were going to have your one in the afternoon. And you're like, no, I'm not going to because I'm doing Frugal February, obviously. Do you kind of calculate how much that would have been? Like, because obviously it's cheaper making one at home. So say the cost was $1.20.
Yeah.
And would you transfer that over, even though it's something that the cost, and this is a trap, the cost doesn't really exist because you're not actually handing over the money for it at the time.
Look, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go to that extreme. But as I say, you make your own rules, so you can count that if you want. But I have 2 coffees in the morning at home, and I would probably buy 1 or 2 coffees during the week when I'm out and about on the go. So obviously I will be cutting those for Frugal February. And I'm guilty of my love language is snacks, cupcakes, pastries, muffins. There'll be no love languages happening this month. Yeah.
I know you're monitoring it and you're checking it morning and night. And a lot of that would be about accountability and just making sure that you are staying on track. Do you reward yourself for success? So say at the end of the first week, you go, you know what, this has been a really good week. I'm guessing no, based solely on the look on your face.
It's so funny that you say this because I looked at my 2023 year goals, resolutions, habits, and I would normally reward myself at the end of the year if I've achieved my goals or have come very close to achieving my goals with a handbag purchase. And I realized it was this year I want to do things differently. I was like, why am I chasing such a materialistic reward? You know, I'm better than that. What's going on there? So what I'm doing is taking away the rewards, and the reward is the feeling of achievement, the feeling of pride, the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of accountability and ownership and empowerment. That's the reward. You just look at me like you are completely unhinged.
No, I'm not unhinged, but I feel like a lot of people, if they're doing it for the first time, or if this is their first time setting their goals, that you're experienced. No, you're experienced at this, and you're very disciplined with this kind of thing. And so that you are probably at that point where you can take away the physical kind of reward at the end of the year for achieving your goals. Whereas a lot of people, perhaps me, would need a more tangible reward for achieving that rather than just the feeling.
But the feeling contributes to our well-being as well. It's very valuable. However, yes, to answer your question, yes, you can have a reward, and that's okay. But as I say, you make your rules. You have your boundaries so that if you want a reward, give yourself a reward. I will admit, though, since changing my mindset for 2023, it has had a profound impact in removing the materialistic rewards and that replacing it with the feelings of pride, accomplishment, satisfaction, joy, all those things, has really improved my mindset and my general attitude of life.
Really?
Yeah. It actually has been game-changing.
Because you have been on the record previously as saying that Frugal February turns you into a bit of a, what was the word that you used?
Bitch.
No. That's it.
I don't think I use that word, but I will. It makes me a grumpy bitch because it's very much about scarcity, limitation, and I'm not that person. I'm not a glass half empty. I'm all about opportunities, abundance, action, proactive, planning, go-getter. Like that's who I am. So it goes against my psyche kind of.
So it really is a detox because essentially what you just described in terms of the way it makes you feel is the way a lot of people feel when they are doing a detox.
Exactly.
And depriving them of all the things that have made them feel good, probably almost too good over a long period of time, and they need that reset. Okay, February, Frugal February. Very hard to say, but I think we've covered kind of what we need to be thinking about for the next 28 days. It is essentially cutting down your spending for the month and really looking for every opportunity you can. If you don't need to spend that money, then don't. But
proactively transfer it immediately on the spot into that separate dedicated savings account so it doesn't get spent.
Transfer the money. And so that then, and we're looking at things like food, batch cooking, no takeaway. If you're going to have a dinner party, get everyone involved. Make sure they are all aware that you are doing Frugal February.
Get them to join you, which is even better.
Everybody bring a plate and kind of get involved in it. Consider dry February and look at the money that can be saved from no alcohol, gym memberships, pausing gym memberships and any other subscriptions and things that can be paused and seeing if you can get by without them, but make sure that you are replacing them, substituting them with a free alternative that is going to still kind of deliver you the fitness benefits that a gym membership would, things like online videos on YouTube, entertaining the kids, think of the free activities. Fortunately, if you've got school-aged kids, February is squarely in kind of school time. So that it would be very hard doing Frugal January because there's a lot of kind of kid time and it does get expensive but take them to parks in different suburbs and kind of new experiences, go to the beach, things that aren't actually going to cost too much money. keep monitoring it.
Yes. And also jump on the phone, call up your gas provider, call up your electricity provider.
Oh, yeah.
Those people, see if you can get a better deal on your car insurance. Have a look at what your expenses are and shop around.
And would you save those? Would you put those savings into your Frugal February then?
Oh,
if you make
yes.
those changes and those savings during the month, you have earned the right to put that into your Frugal February account?
100%. And you would also, after Frugal February finishes, there's still newfound long-term savings, so they can now go towards your emergency money or your investing or saving for a particular lifestyle goal, such as a holiday or maybe for superannuation retirement planning. So those, not only do you get to benefit from what you create and earn and save from Frugal February, you get to have the flow-on effect and benefits from doing it.
And it may be that some of those habits become permanent habits. And even if they don't, at least it's given you a little bit of a reset and kind of given you a bit of insight into what you actually really value and really need, and kind of helps you stop mindless spending.
You've nailed it.
I have been listening. I actually have been taking notes, quite a lot of notes.
Do you want to join in on Frugal February?
I will dabble. I will dabble in Frugal February. All right. How do we find you, Canna?
The best place is on Instagram at Sugar Mama TV, particularly if you're going to join me with doing Frugal February. So if you do something where you find some savings or a great frugal hack or just something that you want to share with other people, please make sure you tag at Sugar Mama and hashtag Frugal February, because I will share the love right back. And of course, you can always follow me at Canna Campbell Official, which is more inside my crazy world with the 3 kids, 2 Labradors and Tom, who sits in bed with me on an Excel spreadsheet. And then, of course, there's always Sugar Mama's Fire Play.
Indeed. And if you want to hear more of me, you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember, you have to hit follow on the podcast so that you get every episode automatically in your playlist. And please, if you are enjoying the show, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star rating. We really, really love seeing those. Next week, we are going to talk a bit about investing, specifically getting started in shares. Really, it's a 101 on investing in shares. The principles that if there's ever been a question about shares that you didn't really understand or that you're kind of a bit afraid to ask because it just seems so basic, I'm going to be asking all of those questions next week, so do not miss it.